I write a bit in the book about just the reality of sexual and gender-based violence. So one of the really evil, tragic realities of the Islamic State's governance strategy was they had whole tiers of which women could be raped, trafficked, and victimized. So whether they were Muslims or non-Muslims, were they Christians? Did they have some protection because they are people of the book? They're Christians. They're not polytheists like Yazidis were, right? So they had this
Yeah.
whole complex, really evil theology about who could be trafficked and raped. And talking with women in these communities, you realize that there are difficult decisions about the reality of surviving by arranging marriages between local community members, women and girls, and ISIS fighters, where this was described as an arranged marriage, which was a euphemism for human trafficking, right? That these women were sexually exploited as a peace offering for local ISIS fighters as a way to protect the wider community from violence and victimization. And so there were a disproportionate or inordinate cost borne by women and girls as a way of survival for the greater community, in terms of particularly in situations where you could enter into an arranged marriage. A lot of, if you were a non-Muslim, non-Arab, you were sexually violated or trafficked. If you were a Christian or Sunni Muslim woman or girl, there are opportunities for marriage. And in the aftermath of conflict, how are they restored to their communities? How are they treated for post-traumatic stress and physical disability wrought by that? And how are they reintroduced to the community? And how do they come to terms with what happened to them? How are these marriages? The theological reality of how do you annul these marriages? How do you convince community members that these were forced marriages, that they were illegal and unethical according to Islamic law? Right.
Yeah.
That's some of the most heartbreaking reality of how the difficult trade-offs you make to survive if you can't flee or protect yourself by fleeing violence.
So the ISIS fighters would come into a community, and the community would band together to try to figure out who to offer, which girl to offer as an appeasement to the ISIS fighter. And then they would kind of disguise that as an arranged marriage. That's sort of how it would work.
It depends on some of the communities. So in a place like Tel Afar in Nineveh, there are reports of local level negotiations between community elites and ISIS fighters. That one of the ways to shield your community from further victimization, right, to not be exploited, you basically helped arrange Islamic marriages. These outside of the radical theology of the Islamic State, these were neither legal nor legal according to secular law or Islamic law. But the idea was that you would arrange a marriage between local fighters and community members as a way to basically the spoils of war for local militants, and a way to introduce some form of cohesion in the community to basically pacify local civilians.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
That is, like, I'm assuming that a lot of the girls that are given up to these ISIS fighters, they are having conversations with people in their family about it, like their mothers or siblings or neighbors even, and everyone knows it's going to happen. There's a buildup to this sort of thing. Like it's an active decision to give these women up, so that there's like a period of discussing it with your family. Like I can't even imagine what that is, like what that would do to someone to sort of be released into the chaos of an ISIS arranged marriage, but you know that you're also potentially saving people in your village. Like that is as dark as it gets.
And that's a part of the history of warfare and human nature that we've seen that in World War II as well. It's not unique to contemporary Iraq. And the best accounts of this are not my book. You had a Yazidi woman that won the Nobel Peace Prize a number of years ago, that has a Murad Yazidi, who wrote a whole book on her experience and advocating for women and girls that survived this experience. And so listening to their stories and honoring that experience, it's a difficult line, right? You want to convey those things and honor their story. You also don't want trauma porn, right? Trauma porn can sell books, but it's not a way to honor the dignity of people that went through that experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's I feel like that's what you've been able to do so well during this conversation is you're able to convey the violence and the extreme situations that people are facing in Israel and Palestine without getting into the pornish aspect of hanging over these like the extreme details, because after a certain point it does get to the point it does get to the level where you start to question, why am I, like, I've seen it. It's bad. People can go seek it out if they want to. And I even
Yep.
succumb to that sometimes, where I'm just like, I'm watching videos and you watched one and so you're like, all right, well, I've already watched one. I'm going to watch another. And then you, it does become uh, a difficult line to cross when you're actually talking about it. Like, how far is too far?
Especially over video or social media, where there's some medium where you're separated from it. It's not face to face or eyewitness, rather. Like, it's poisonous for your soul, right? It's the gratuitous violence is heartbreaking. There's a way to experience the gravity of that without just filling yourself with
Yeah.
just gratuitous violence.